All right, good morning, everybody. How's it going today? Hopefully, you guys can hear me. If you can hear me, please let me know. Hey, Miles, how's it going today? I'm on location again, so speaking a little bit quietly, hoping not to wake everybody up. It's always so early here. So, off to a quick start as usual on crude oil, and of course, we'll do the crude oil report in a little while. But the first trade of the day just missed its target and came back up and stopped out for one tick. And now in a second trade, that one was short at 71.99. Crude oil getting up over $72 a share. And the price just keeps rising. So it just hit money management again and missed its target barely again. That target was 71.88. Got down to 89. It could still push through. Hopefully it does. Stops should move to break even, and you can see it's working around the key level, trying to stay in the trade. It's kind of small. And yeah, that's a optional idea. If you don't mind holding a couple ticks of risk still on the trade, work around the key level, that might be enough to stay in the trade for another move lower. But it wasn't, just stopped out. So a couple money management trades in here and not quite able to hit full target on either one. Thank you, John. Good morning, Al, Armando, William. Nice to see you guys. Not a lot going on. Pound Aussie kind of flat to nothing. There's a get in sync long trade that was at 83.21. Has not yet come up to hit that entry. There's also a short trade, which is not, may cancel on this next bar, another close above the balance line, but you kind of see the up and down low range. By the way, that short is at 83.08. Normally we would adjust that down if we happen to be in the long trade, which we're not, because it never did come up to hit our entry. Even though the system shows it got long, that was back at 8:03 this morning. We only want to adjust to protect the position we are in. We're not in it yet. So this trade could come off with another close higher, but it's valid at this point, short at 83.08. Small trade. I mean, you have to go to target 2 only for 10 pips, and after spread, I mean, it's hardly worth it, but it does meet our minimum, like absolute minimum requirement. So it's just reflective of a dead, uninteresting market at the moment. It's perfectly imbalanced between buyers and sellers. And that's just the way it is. And there's a long now. 2 money management trades on crude pretty much ends the trade plan. I would say you're kind of throwing caution to the wind if you take this trade on crude. This mini session with 2 money management trades should be over. So kind of uneventful so far this morning. Good morning, Randy. Well, John says not positive because of the KLA. That's kind of, yeah, I mean, that's true if you want to take a third trade because the first 2 are not positive. Working around the KLA is what the dots do, but it's kind of optional. I mean, locking in the one tick or not, it just depends. Yeah, but John makes a good point. If you're working around the KLA, you could take a third trade because you're not quite positive. If you did move your stop down to lock in your one tick, then you got two break-even trades you should stop. And missing the full target by one tick kind of qualifies especially on a 22-cent trade. Went 21 cents out of the 22. You can make an argument to call it quits and get a partial profit there. So this is where you kind of hit shades of gray as far as your trade plan goes, because there's a number of ways to go. What's important is that you first of all, this is a situation that doesn't come up very often, so you may have not planned for it. But when you see something like this, of course, you can't get a sample size to know what the right thing to do is over a long period of time. There's just no way to know it because you don't get enough of these to be able to go, well, usually when this happens, the next thing occurs. So you just kind of have to make a decision on what works best for you. And then if this ever happens again, do it the same way. Do it the same way every time you start building a sample set. Maybe, 2 money management trades is usually the end of a trade plan. You had working around a key level, which is optional on one of them, on a real small trade where you really hardly had any room to maneuver. It just, it's a dead day so far. That is a long trade, and it may have a chance of doing quite well because you had a breakthrough support that failed, right? No follow through. It's pretty bullish, these two bars. Support created here, stabbed through, failed. Now pushing higher, definitely oversold. And so this trade has a chance to succeed. It really does. And I wouldn't mind if you took it. But anyway, just to call it out, it was long from 31. It's trying to, 13, long from 72.13, trying to get to 33. Nice size trade. And 44. Could be the failure to get lower leads to a strong move higher. This is a testing zone here, so testing resistance with the 50 and the 200 starting to join together a little bit. And it could find resistance on a higher time frame and start heading lower again, or could just start moving up as this is in a long-term uptrend. Crude oil is. Don't forget tomorrow or the next day, we have to be mindful of volume because the contract will be rolling over to September, the U contract. I'm sorry. I'm skipping a month. It's going to roll over to August. August, not September. August. What's the letter for August again? I don't have my cheat notes in front of me. I should know the letter for August. And as John pointed out, we do have an FOMC statement today. Crude oil pushing up to its money management. If it hits that, for sure, this will be the last trade of the mini session, and 3 would be your total amount anyway. Good morning, Roger. Q, all right, the Q contract. So get ready for that. Just making a few adjustments here. 1 second. And of course, the markets have open. Let's take a look at everything else. So missing target, the money management by 1 tick, stuck on the 72.30. Keep an eye on that one. In the meantime, the YM got long as well from 52 after an adjustment around the 50 moving average, and it's just missing its money management by 1 tick as well, which would be 182. It got to 180, so missing by 2 ticks, and it's about ready to hit it. Hopefully, you could see how getting stuck on the 10-cent levels, there it is. So it hit money management, and its full target is 86, got as high as 84. So we're two points away from hitting our objective on the YM. Look at that V-shape reversal. That's one of the things that it's very hard to trade a V-shape, but you could see the V-shapes up and down this morning, and it's one of the things that SPC, SPC, it's crazy. Spotlight is good at detecting. So it just missed its full target, barely, trying to get to 86. And also crude oil is getting close to hitting its full target, trying to get to 33. So stuck on 31. The YM missed full target by 2 ticks, and now that stopped moving a little higher. I would keep it at 53 unless you've already moved it, but work around the low of that bar. Try to stay in the trade. It might find support on the 50 and push higher here. And hitting full target on crude oil. So if you did take that third trade, you did well. And looks like the pound Aussie may be getting short here. Just missed getting short on TradeStation. If you're in another platform, you may have already gotten short. Unleaded gas, take a quick look. Unleaded gas, unfortunately, well, yeah, got long on a get in sync and then came down and stopped out. So that was unfortunate. This red trade needs to be blue, but it's red. Doesn't matter. All right, well, the second trade, though, a nice winner. So yeah, unleaded gas hitting a 56 and 86 tick target on the second trade. And another V-shaped reversal. It's one of those days. And there you go. So the YM did stop out. It just barely missed its full target. And there's a new short that may cancel. So far, it's good, unless you're considering this your power of quitting trade, since it was basically over 90%, almost 95% of the way to its target. Again, that's something that every individual trader has to decide for themselves. The pound Aussie is painfully slow this morning. So there you go. Any questions? Just a quick review of the Russell while we're watching this chart. It actually did quite well with the first trade out the gate off that 50 moving average. And when you see EMAs fanning apart, that's an indication of momentum in the direction of, you got your slow EMA, your middle EMA, and your fast moving average, and they're all spreading apart. And then you got the setup with the exhaustion dots lined up on the 50 like that. It's usually a pretty good setup. And as you can see, it worked out pretty nicely on the Russell. Okay, the YM did get short from 149, targeting 124 and 109. So welcome again, everybody. If you're just joining us, I realized it looks like the room kind of got larger and larger as I was reviewing everything so far this morning. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please also don't forget to hit the like button. Be very kind of you to do so. Take a look at the NQ. So lots of trading on the NQ. I mean, look at all these bars in just the first, 13 minutes since the market opened. And this is a 6 point momentum bar. So a pretty decent range as well as far as the bars go. And you can just see the NQ has just been really active. The first trade out the gate, hard to know if there was even enough time to take it because from here to the next bar is 10 seconds. So probably not. Would have been a nice trade. Look how perfect that is, but probably not tradable. And then you kind of get into some trouble with these next two trades, although I suspect that this next one may have been too fast to trade as well. In fact, well, this one, yeah. Anyway, at least one, if not two losses. And then now the third, this next trade here, which is still going and just barely missing its money management. Again, this is kind of an experimental chart and one of the Spotlight Master Suite diamond level setups. We're just kind of watching and learning from at this point. And unleaded gas, almost at its target 3. Still not quite in that short on the pound Aussie on this chart. And of course, we'll do the crude oil inventory report probably in the next 30 minutes or so. We'll close this session down and reopen the next one a few minutes after. Do the crude oil report today. Zebra stripes here on the pound Aussie. The long trade technically is not canceled. So that one can still get long as well. And in fact, the short trade did cancel. 2 closes above our balance line. It never triggered in. The short trade's canceled. So maybe tricky if you're in the short trade. If your data provider is different, you may have placed your order and got triggered in short. And if so, then stay with your trade. It's hard to know what to do. Things always are a challenge when markets are hardly moving. All right, guys, so looks like the long trade on the pound Aussie is the one triggering in. Tricky trading when you got that pesky 1/10 of a pip as part of the quotes here, but the entry on the short never got hit. The long trade remains an in sync valid long trade, the setup here, and it did just push up and get long. So the first trade of the morning on the pound Aussie is a long trade, and that one is targeting 83.36, 83.44, 53, and 62, and the stop is at 98. Meanwhile, unleaded gas continues to climb, zooming past its fourth target, and the stop now moving up to 155, 1573, actually on the move. Getting ready to jump up again here, probably to 1584. There it is, 1584, and still going. So inflation is alive and well. And here we go with crude oil still making a move on that long trade, reaching for its target 2 now at 72.44. Got as high as 72.83 today. So crude oil's looking like it's getting pulled towards the $75 a barrel price is what this looks like to me. Penny by penny, inch by inch. All right, so missing its target 2 barely. Trying to get to 44, getting as high as 43. If anyone's in that trade, wouldn't let it come too far off. It's a nice move. 31-cent target, getting 30 cents of the way. The stop has moved up to 24. Normally I would hide it behind the 50 moving average, but it's already pretty far down and it just moved up again to 29. So 29 on that trailer for crude. And the YM, that one's still going, hitting its money management. The stop moving lower now on that. And it also just missed its target again by an inch, by a tick, I should say. So that just seems to keep happening this morning. It missed it on the YM coming up, missed it on the YM coming down so far, or did it touch? No, it missed. And that's what we saw in the first 2 trades with crude oil. And then the third one missing its target 2 by 1 tick as well. So it's just one of those days where barely missing on a number of these. Of course, the YM did just come up and stop out. So the YM, 2 money management trades, and that's the end of that session. Taking what the market wants to give. Ari, so when you say on your indicator, let's just clarify. This is the Spotlight Master Suite, Spotlight Power Trader Master Suite. Counterpunch Trader can trade the pound Aussie as well. You can use an 8 pip momentum bar. You can use a time-based chart maybe. I'd probably stick with the momentum bar. You could even use a tick chart. The thing you would want to do is go through the fast testing process and make sure that you've got a chart, whichever one of those three, or could quit positive most of the time. I mean, the whole idea is, can you hit your targets, get your minimum profit goal, and quit a majority of the time? I mean, that's the basis of everything. So you could certainly put on counterpunch, and you maybe only focus on one setup. You could just maybe focus on the green trades to start. And if you like what you see, take a peek what it looks like adding either the white or the purple. You may want to add all three. It's hard to say until you start engaging with the chart and making sure that it just gives you what you need. The goal is to quit with a positive result most of the time while controlling your drawdown with minimal and efficient trading. So that could be done with the counterpunch for sure. This is Spotlight, and it grew out of counterpunch. It uses the exhaustion dots, it uses the balance line, but then it looks at trades differently. Counterpunch cares only about the exhaustion dots. For example, this set of exhausted sellers is a little bit higher than the one set to the left. So that's going to produce your green trade in counterpunch, and you literally would have had a setup right there. In fact, you would have had one here as well, because this set is one set higher than the one prior. So this set would have given you a white trade, which ended up being the same as our blue trade if you're using the white trades. If you're only using the green trades, you would have had this as your setup. And that's the one that would have triggered in, actually, not this one. You got several. You would have had green, green, green if you had add-ons turned on. If you didn't have your add-ons turned on, then this would have been your setup. Because what counterpunch looks at is a relationship of the exhaustion dots to the prior set, maybe the prior two sets. And that's what the whole strategy is built upon. So higher lows. Spotlight doesn't care about that. What this is looking at is exhaustion, balance, price action, but then it adds other elements like the oversold, overbought indicator and its relationship, the dots proximity to certain moving averages. So that's really the difference. Spotlight is pickier. Sometimes counterpunch catches trades that Spotlight doesn't, and vice versa. So you could certainly use counterpunch to trade the same markets that you're seeing here with Spotlight. They're not always going to be the same trades, but it should work quite well. Yeah, I know one market we haven't really checked out yet is our counterpunch trade with soybeans. I didn't even know I had the automation on. I don't need to see that. Let's just flip that off. Whoops. So on soybeans this morning, starting right at 8:30, lots of trading going on right when the 8:30 bell chimes. First trade was the purple trade, and it happened really fast. I mean, there's no way anyone's getting into that with 2 seconds, unfortunately. So that one we won't count. The next trade, though, maybe you had time. I wasn't watching, so there's no way to know. It looks like there may have been enough time. Let's see. Yeah, there was. So this was the first trade. This was tradable. You could tell by the timestamp on the 2 bars. And that one hit all its targets. And soybeans is one and done this morning. Nice trade, too. Grains, soybeans, an excellent market if you're looking for something different to trade. in addition to what else you're trading, you might try soybeans. But if you do, just be aware it does require concentration right when the start time happens because you don't want to miss those trades. So make sure it's not conflicting with anything else that you happen to be trading. Hey, Ron, good morning. Just kind of finishing up this session, you guys. There's not a whole lot to do here. We've kind of done mostly everything, and it mostly happened. Well, some of it happened before we even started the session, but done on the YM, 2 break-even trades, unless you took partial profits. Done on crude oil, 2 or 3 trades there that worked out nice. Unleaded gas, that one's done. Although, when you see a stop sitting right on the 200 moving average, you kind of want to keep it below and a major key level as well. This long trade really should still be trailing. Like, you don't want to stop out right on top of a 200 moving average when you've got a nice runner going. So really, if you're kind of been learning anything at all over the time that we've spent together, however many days, weeks, months, years you've been with me, you should know that this is not a place to stop out at, and that the unleaded trade should still be trailing. And you trail 2 ticks behind. May have stopped out here, 607. You probably either put it at 604 or keep it at 599. It did stab down to 1630. Am I reading this right? I'm not reading this right. Yeah, 1607. I'm reading it wrong. I'm sorry. The balance line's down here, 1634. Yeah, I mean, it probably stopped out here at either 3.2. If you're trailing by 2 ticks. So you might have been able to pick up a little bit more. So right there is probably where it finishes. But anyway, nice trade. But use your lines to mark near-term support and resistance, and always work around them when trailing to try to stand for larger moves is the moral of this story. But it would have finished for sure. But yeah, basically done. So I'm going to shut this session down here. Just let me see if you have any additional questions, and then we'll restart it in a little while for the crude oil report. Yeah, so that's also possible. I mean, if we should be in the queue, yeah, 15. Let's go ahead and, now that this trade is over, sometimes that happens. Have you looked at crude oil? Has crude oil transitioned yet? Probably some split volume between crude. But yeah, you could see that there's, it's pretty thin, and look at this trade still going. So if you happen to be in the August contract, lucky you. So the volume has moved over. We'll leave it at Q, or August contract. As far as crude oil goes, let's just take a look. We've got 160,000 on the N contract. And we've got coming up, drum rolls please, not quite. And you can see it just doesn't have the volume yet. So we're going to stick with the July contract for now. Usually it's on the 18th that you want to be on the next contract, but not always. It could be tomorrow. Probably see some migration tomorrow, but for sure today we will stay on July. So I'm going to shut this down. If you guys don't mind hitting the thumbs up button, I'd really appreciate that. And I hope you enjoyed this kind of somewhat sleepy session. Don't forget the pound Aussie is still long, so if you're in that trade, heads up on that. And I will reopen the room shortly, probably in the next 10 to 15 minutes. I'll reopen it, and we'll trade the crude oil report together. And John with the question asking about my son's graduation. It was just a milestone in my family. My son just graduated from high school. And, great. It was great. So thank you for asking. Next week, I'm going to be traveling and John's going to be handling the room Monday through Thursday. So be nice to John. 3 cheers for John for doing that for us. Really great of him. I will not be able to. I'm going to be on the road both those days, so there's no way I'd be able to do it even if I wanted to. Not saying I don't want to, I'm just not able to. All right, guys. So I will see you guys in the next few minutes with the crude oil report. Bye for now.